I'm wondering if this was actually done after Ron Boyle's comment to the national press about the tank advantage.
Well, I knew you were doing strawberries, so I figured you would appreciate it.
I do. Thank you very much.
No, Dave Everhart, North Dakota, like mine for 30 years ago living here. Here's what it takes to do mining one season by yourself, no employees. 18 categories of paperwork for INSHA, U.S. Department of Labor. EPA, it's undiscernible what they want their permits now. Everything is set up for the internationalists. We were outlawed in 1989 by the U.S. Corps of Engineers and the U.S. EPA mining on top of the mountain on our trail. Ken Ross, multinational, was nice enough to give me a lease. This is weeded out paperwork, permits. I'm an ex-bureaucrat from DNR. I know how to weed out paper. And my only question to you was, do you know the plight of the family miner, similar to the plight of the family farmer, the plight of the family business? Do you understand what's going on with the mining here? Our natural resources are being used as collateral for the federal government's debt. Believe me, Joe Vogler hollered about that clear back in 1977. But I just wanted to know if you were aware of what's going on, because we got no results from Young, Murkowski, and Stevens. And we try to go to court. We'd spend all this money on class action lawsuits, federal court. Oh, that's a state issue. State court. Oh no, you belong in federal court. But I'm just wondering if you were aware of all this, because I usually refuse to vote for Republicans. One Republican I actually drove down and voted for, and she's right back there, the first one in 30 years. But I need to know if you're aware of what's happened to us small Alaskan businesses.
I'm aware, but not nearly as aware as you are. You know, one of the things I've heard from other small miners is that it's not just all that, but it's also what they're doing to prevent to prevent continued mining. And it's not just by bird parties, but it's the games that they play within the agencies. And I mean, if you look at the Obama administration, it's not just in that area, but it seems like in most of the resource development, the people in position to basically frustrate resource development. And, you know, it's just like the people with influence and the forces that play to prevent them from using their influence. The same sort of thing at play. I mean, it's that the environment is out there to be observed and not used. You know, that it's a resource not
well, our best minerals were locked up in parks. But we go on, this is for mining on rural, Fairbanks North Star rural land.
Well, and you mentioned about the parks. You know, we've got now an attempt to make a wilderness designation now on areas MPRA, also, I guess, AMOR even. And yet, we know that under NILCA, that shouldn't be happening. I mean, it's a clear violation right now. Everything that was supposed to be designated was at that time, and yet and even then, you know, there obviously was no expanse, I think, of federal domination on those lands. But now we've got yet another effort to even further restrain, at least with hydrocarbon development, the wilderness designation in certain areas. And it just reflects kind of the whole mentality of the federal administration to restrict resource development.
Well, there used to be 1,200 mining families in the interior here. Hectares make my goosebumps, in fact. It's down to nothing. And most of us are illegal. Notice this is 2009 I brought in.
That's right. And NILCA was no more. One other thing I wanted to mention, Bill, on this that's related, it's not just mining. The Small Business Administration just came out several weeks ago with the estimated cost of regulatory burden per employee. For a small business, it's over $9,000 per employee. We aren't talking about taxes, okay? We're just talking about regulatory compliance. So if you're a small businessman or woman, you've got 5 employees, you're paying at least $45,000 just for regulations, just for complying with regulations.
Under MSHA regulations, I tried to train my wife to run my backhoe. I've run for 30 years. 2 months after we were done mining, some big city had an MSHA office, sent me a citation. I was not qualified to teach my wife how to run the backhoe because I hadn't been in unions or whatever. You know, it's all set up for the huge mines like Fort Knox with 400 employees. You can't do it. It's impossible.
Yes, first of all, I want to congratulate you on running. I know it's like it's not easy. But one of the things that we've had to struggle with is getting our resources because the question I have is, what laws would you look to repeal to help give a lasting control using the sound resources? Because that's the only way to get it.
Well, but it's not, Rick. I mean, that is the first start. And of course, you can't do that until the Obama administration is out of place because it would require a two-thirds vote. And we're going to be able to, I think, create coalitions that will give us a majority, which I think will allow us through appropriations to affect the process. But as far as repealing laws go, it clearly is going to require a change of administration. Now, there are things that we can work toward, and I'll go outside the resources for just a minute. You know, we made a pledge to repeal health care. We're going to do what we can to see that happen. Whether we can get the two-thirds, I don't know. There is some low-hanging fruit on health care, such as the 1099 requirement, where there's bipartisan support to get rid of that requirement. How many people are aware of the 1099 requirement under Obamacare? Yeah, if you're a small business man or woman, you better, because it's a huge, huge, huge burden. If you have every transaction over $600, Phil?
You know, with that 1099 issue, any $600 check you write, and I'm saying check because most of us keep track through checks, how many of you pay your bills with credit cards? The GDEA, fuel companies, all those credit card receipts now, 1099 generate. Who sees what happens with that? All these new IRS employees.
Yep. Well, I'm sorry.
Any more questions? On earmarks, I'm not sure I understand all about it, but a thought occurred to me the other day. Now, earmarks, I understand, are a smaller percentage of money compared to a lot of other big chunks of money. But the thought I had was that it could cause a representative or senator to vote for a rotten bill that takes away our freedoms, as long as it gets a little earmark into it so that he can appease some little voter base over here. Is that how it works?
Well, that's one of the reasons why Senator Burnett and others in the Senate are so very much opposed to earmarks, is because they're considered to be the single most corrupting influence in Congress. That because we have something which is less than 1% of the budget, and by the way, in this state, earmarks have been reduced significantly. You may not be aware of this, but by one calculation, they reached over 3% 2 years ago, slipped down to a little over 1% last year, this year less than 1%, at least by the calculations we have. They're going down. They're going down in part. And it's not just because of influence of our representative senator, because obviously seniority is going up, not going down. But there is within the Congress a growing animosity toward earmarks, particularly amongst those that are getting elected now. There's a view that that is really, in part, one of the things that has created this huge growth in the federal government, because that earmark's dangled in front of this representative or senator, and it's basically you either vote for the whole package, even though it may have horrible aspects to it, or you don't get your earmark. And I mean, that kind of dovetails a little bit with the idea of when we have legislation before the Congress, should we be able to airdrop provisions into it, or should it include more than what the title indicates? Should we be packaging multiple different issues together for a single vote? And I think that requires change as well, and hopefully we'll get enough of a composition, new composition in the Congress that we can get some of the rules changed so we have bills that are no longer, multiple passes. In other words, have a whole bunch of different issues or a whole bunch of different, things that don't necessarily relate to the prime purpose of the bill. And I think it would lead to more honest governance. I really do.
Joe Alvezi, North Pole. First, I'd like to commend you and your family for the courage that you've shown to take on this task and take on because you've never done it. You can't imagine the risk and the pitfalls and you said the public exposure that you go through. So I want to commend you and I want to wish you Godspeed there.
Thank you.
But my question is, do you think that with the economic situation in the entire country the way it is, that there's a role for ANWR in the United States economic recovery?
Absolutely. I mean, the oil that's trapped up in ANWR could produce not just a shot in the arm from Alaska, but to the entire United States. And I said, how many people heard the debate in the primary on public television? One of the last things I said was, I really do believe it's Alaska's destiny to lead America into the future. We have a resource base in this state that is very much untapped. I mean, we talk about hydrocarbons, but this whole state is just loaded with wealth. And it could be the economic engine of this country if we released it to do so. I mean, we know we've got 50 billion barrels of crude right now that have not yet been produced, at least. I mean, that's proven reserves. And then 200 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. And that's an extraordinary resource. You look at blue coal, you've got probably 300 years of coal by some estimates there, although the plan is for a 30-year lifespan.